The sun had not yet broken the horizon when the team assembled on the ridge, the air thin and sharp, carrying the smell of dust and cold stone. Below them stretched a valley that had swallowed patrols and promises alike, a place where radio signals died and men disappeared. The SEAL commander stood over a weathered map spread across a rock, his jaw set, eyes scanning the terrain as if he could force it to reveal its secrets. He had seen every kind of battlefield, from tight alleys to open deserts, and he knew when something crossed the line from difficult to impossible. This was one of those moments. The target compound sat far beyond what doctrine called a clean shot. Multiple structures, moving guards, unpredictable winds rolling down the mountains, and 3 enemy generals who never stayed in one place for more than minutes at a time. Intelligence wanted them gone in one decisive strike to break the network coordinating attacks across the region. Air support was ruled out. Ground assault would cost lives and alert half the province. The plan hinged on a single sniper shot that could not, by any reasonable calculation, be made. That was when she stepped forward. Her name was Captain Elena Cross, though most people simply called her Cross. She was quiet, precise, and had a reputation that moved ahead of her like a shadow. She had joined the team months earlier, transferred from a unit few people spoke about in detail. Some of the men had underestimated her at first. They had stopped doing that quickly. She did not raise her voice or argue. She simply looked at the map, then at the commander, and said she could do it. The commander shook his head, not unkindly, but firmly. He tapped the distance between their position and the compound with a gloved finger. The wind charts were ugly. The elevation drop was brutal. The targets would be moving, surrounded by heat sources and decoys. No one can make that shot, he said, more statement than challenge. It was the kind of line meant to end a discussion. Cross didn't flinch. She asked for the weather data again. She asked for the last 3 days of movement patterns, not just the summaries. She asked about the metal roofing on the central building, the way it reflected heat at dawn. She asked about the commander's own experience in this terrain, how the wind lied to you here, how it felt steady until the bullet left the barrel and then twisted just enough to ruin everything. She listened more than she spoke, absorbing details like pieces of a puzzle only she could see whole. The commander watched her, a flicker of doubt giving way to curiosity. He had learned, over years of command, to recognize the difference between confidence and competence. Cross wasn't boasting, she was calculating. Still, the risk was enormous. If she missed, the opportunity would be gone, and the team would be exposed. He repeated himself, slower this time. No one can make that shot. She met his eyes. Then let me show you why I can. They moved to the firing position as the sky began to lighten, a pale gray bleeding into blue. Cross set up with ritualistic care, every movement economical, as if she were conserving not energy but intent. Her rifle was an extension of her body, customized down to the smallest detail. She adjusted her scope, checked her dope card, and lay prone, breathing slow, steady. The world narrowed to angles, distances, and probabilities. Through her scope, the compound came alive. Guards shifted positions, their routines predictable but never identical. The generals emerged one by one, silhouettes against the warming air, their conversations invisible but their importance unmistakable. Cross tracked them without urgency, waiting. Patience was her greatest weapon. The commander crouched, nearby, binoculars in hand, tension etched into his face. He knew that if she failed, the blame would be his for allowing it. He also knew that sometimes, war demanded a leap of faith. Around them, the rest of the team was silent, each man aware that history, at least their small slice of it, might turn in the next few seconds. The wind shifted, just as predicted, curling along the valley floor before rising in an invisible wall halfway to the target. Cross adjusted, then adjusted again, accounting for a micro variation she felt more than saw. Her finger rested on the trigger, pressure increasing by degrees so fine they were almost theoretical. Time seemed to stretch, the world holding its breath. The first general stepped into the open, pausing to light a cigarette. Cross exhaled, a slow release, and the rifle spoke. The sound was swallowed by distance and terrain. A heartbeat later, the general collapsed, the cigarette falling from his hand. Confusion rippled through the compound, guards shouting, weapons raised. Cross was already moving. She shifted her aim, recalculating as bodies moved, as chaos introduced new variables. The second general appeared on a balcony, barking orders, his outline sharp against the building behind him. Cross waited for a lull in the wind, a moment so brief it could be missed by anyone not looking for it. She squeezed again. The second shot was as clean as the first. The general fell backward, disappearing from view. Alarms blared. Guards scattered. Smoke grenades bloomed, gray clouds intended to obscure sightlines and buy time. The commander's heart pounded. 2 shots were already beyond anything he had believed possible. He opened his mouth to order a withdrawal, to end it before luck ran out. Cross did not stop. The third general was the hardest. He moved erratically, shielded by men who had trained for exactly this scenario. The smoke thickened, distorting heat signatures, bending light. Cross adjusted her scope to cut through the interference, switching modes with practiced ease. She tracked a fragment of movement, a glimpse of a face through swirling gray. She waited. The commander watched, barely breathing. He wanted to tell her to abort, to save herself and the team. He didn't. Something in her stillness told him she was already committed, already beyond doubt or fear. The third shot cracked, softer somehow, as if even the rifle understood the gravity of the moment. There was a pause, then a body fell forward out of the smoke, unmistakable in its insignia and bearing. The valley seemed to exhale. Silence followed, broken only by distant shouting and the thud of boots as the compound descended into disarray. The mission objective had been achieved in seconds that would be analyzed and argued over for years. Cross remained prone, scanning for threats, ready to fire again if needed. Only when the commander touched her shoulder did she ease back, her expression unchanged. They exfiltrated without contact, slipping away as the sun finally crested the mountains, painting the valley gold. The commander said nothing until they were safely clear, the weight of what he had witnessed settling over him. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost reverent. "I was wrong." Cross allowed herself a small nod. Not a smile, just acknowledgement. Back at base, the story spread quickly, stripped of embellishment because none was needed. 3 enemy generals eliminated in a single operation, from a distance most considered impossible. Analysts pored over data, trying to understand how it had been done. Some called it luck, others called it genius. Cross didn't comment. She cleaned her rifle, logged her shots, and prepared for the next assignment. For the team, the mission changed something fundamental. Trust deepened. The commander found himself listening more, questioning assumptions he had once accepted as fixed. He had said no one could make that shot. He had been wrong, and the admission made him a better leader. Cross remained the same, disciplined and focused, but there was a subtle shift in how others saw her. Not as an anomaly, not as a novelty, but as a professional whose skill demanded respect. She trained with the team, shared techniques, and pushed everyone to refine their craft. The bar had been raised, and no one wanted it lowered again. In quiet moments, when the base settled into its nighttime rhythm, the commander would replay the scene in his mind. The stillness before the shots, the way certainty had been rewritten in real time. War was full of lessons learned too late. This one, he was grateful to learn when it still mattered. If you're listening to this story and you value stories of courage, precision, and the moments that redefine what we believe is possible, take a second to subscribe to the channel. Her Stories World brings you narratives like this, where strength and skill collide in unforgettable ways, and your support helps keep these stories alive. The operation entered the unofficial lore of the unit, told in fragments and glances rather than boasts. New operators would hear about it in training, usually framed as a reminder not to dismiss the impossible too quickly. Somewhere in the telling, the commander's line became a lesson rather than a limit. As for Cross, she carried the mission with her like all the others, not as a trophy but as proof of preparation meeting opportunity. She knew that the next time, conditions would be different, the variables rearranged. She would study them, adapt, and decide again whether the shot could be made. Because sometimes, when someone says no one can do it, they are really saying they have not yet met the person who can.